She was a much-loved artist, benefactor and hoarder.
She was unique in Australian life and painting, and I'm convinced that her artistic legacy will last a long time.
Margaret Olley's Sydney home was a museum in itself, reflecting a life and career spanning nearly 9 decades. Now, 2.5 years after the artist's death, the interior of her home studio has been recreated in the region where she was born.
The hype around this has been extraordinary because it's a huge responsibility. It's, you know, a national icon, a treasure. So we want to do her justice.
Margaret Olley owned this house for nearly half a century. Not only was the Duxford Street Paddington Terrace her home and studio, but also the place where she entertained her friends.
The place is looking a bit bare.
Oh, don't talk.
You've been throwing things out.
Well, I keep trying to.
Actor, impersonator, author and fellow artist Barry Humphries visited Margaret Olley often.
I think this is like an archaeological site. I think if you dig, there'll be layers which can be carbon dated. It was looking a bit bare, I might have said, when she'd moved one ashtray to the left. The house was getting to be. It was in a way telling Margaret it was a bit time she shuffled off. There just wasn't room for her there anymore.
It was Olley's wish that after her death the contents of her house be transported and recreated in the area where she grew up, in northern New South Wales. She left $1 million to the project.
She was very keen on the idea of it going up to the Tweed River because she had spent a lot of time there as a child. She always said it was the happiest part of her childhood.
Okay.
730 has followed the painstaking 2-year process every inch of the way. Every tiny detail and object in Olley's house has been catalogued, cleaned and packed for its 800-kilometre journey north to the Tweed Regional Gallery in Murwillumbah.
It's very important that this material's preserved.
Christine France was Margaret Olley's long-time friend and biographer. She's archiving important documents and objects before they're removed from the house.
Well, this is a collection of Margaret's props, you might call them, for her still life paintings. You can see here dried flowers that she's used in the past. They would have been quite fresh when she started off, but she always kept them because she said they reminded her of what they had once been.
On every corner there was a table with paints on it, a half-finished picture, and she'd amble from one to the other, doing a bit to this, a bit to that.
I mean, I spend my life going from one place to another, following the light round.
3 rooms from Olley's Paddington house have been rebuilt to scale. Even the house's original doors, window panes and frames were removed and installed up at the Tweed.
It lends another layer of Margaret and the house and the history of Duxford Street. And sometimes, you know, there's the aroma, can you say, the scent of a house. Yeah, there's definitely the lingering of cigarette smoke in the place.
As the newly created rooms take shape, the curators cross-reference photographs to ensure they're placing every object, vase of flowers and cigarette butt just where Olley had.
If you look at Margaret's environment, although it looks like chaos, it's actually very planned.
That table there is, this one here right in front of us is so wonky that without that sculpture on top of it, it falls over.
Just ahead of the grand opening, gallery director Susie Muddyman is giving 730 a sneak peek into the completed Olley rooms.
So I love the detail. Tubes of paint in the kitchen.
Well, she used to sit just there and paint, didn't she?
Yes, and she often used baking trays and as her palettes. You know, there's quite a few of those. Here we are at the Yellow Room, which Margaret painted so many times. And
Long after her death, it's hoped that Margaret Olley's bequest will provide the Australian public with a lasting insight into one of its favourite cultural treasures.
we know already from people making bookings here, it's almost like they're coming here as a homage to her.